All right. Welcome everybody to our staff assembly, Lunch and Learn. Today we're going to be talking about student hiring essentials. And first of all, just thank you so much for having us. Really a privilege I know many of you I've interacted with over email, but hopefully this will establish a little more of a relationship. And so if you have any questions, we can continue to better work together. I'll go ahead and introduce myself, and then I'm going to pass it over to my colleagues who are co-presenting today. So my name is Michelle Gomez. I work in the Career Center. I'm the Associate Director for Employer Relations. So my role is more external focused. I do support recruiters looking to hire our students for career and internship opportunities. And a portion of that role includes student employment. And so I get to work with many of you to support your on-campus recruiting needs. And so with that, I'll pass it over to Mary White.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mary White. I'm the Senior Director of Policy and Strategic Initiatives for our Central Human Resources Office. I help write the student employment guidelines along with our partners in compensation. And also in academic personnel. And so we just completed one of the revised guidelines. And so it was easy for us to help with this presentation. So Michelle, thank you for your help and support on the guidelines as well. And we will continue to revise those guidelines throughout the year. And we will bring that information to the campus as we continue to make updates with it. So thank you for having me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Montes. I am new to this role, a project policy analyst with Central Human Resources. So I work alongside Mary in, reviewing policies and procedures and, partnering with everyone on campus. So thank you for having me.
All right. And I'm just so grateful to get to partner with Central Human Resources. I think hopefully what you get to hear today, depending on what your role is, I would imagine we have a diverse mix of folks in the room. Hopefully you will get your questions answered today. And we will try to leave some space at the end for Q&A as well. So with that, some of our goals for today and the things that we'll be discussing, we're going to do starting with kind of understanding Gen Z. Obviously, we work at a university. Gen Z is all around us, but especially in the role of recruitment, getting to know a little bit of the things that are unique to that population. And I know there's folks here. UC Riverside is one of the top employers of our students. So I think beyond just student employment, these are just good things to know, even for those of you even interested in retaining them beyond the student employment position. Also, we'll be talking about maximizing the recruitment process. What are those resources you have available to you? Streamlining the interview and selection process. You'll get to hear some best practices from an HR perspective. Some supervisor tools and resources. How can you begin to really embed career development into some of the roles that you are hiring within your department? Student employment policies, as Mary referenced, hot off the press. We'll have some updated policies to share with you. And then again, we'll finalize our time with some Q&A. All right, so to get started, a little bit about Gen Z. So who are you recruiting? They say that Gen Z is more racially and ethnically diverse than any previous generation. You're going to have students that are going to be coming from all different backgrounds, and these things matter to them, that we actually care in creating a inclusive environment in the environments that we work in. They're the most well-educated generation. They're obviously digital natives. They value working in teams, interested in social impact and giving back. We also know, given all the many things that have happened in society in particular, more recently, they have dealt with higher levels of stress and mental illness and poverty, maybe have seen their parents go through downturns in the economy. So for them, finances is really important to them. Also, they tend to be less afraid to ask for what they want or need. I know for some people, they think they're stereotyped as maybe being entitled or narcissistic, but I think, really, I think they just are less afraid to speak up than maybe what we see in later generations. And then they will make up 20% of our global workforce by 2025. So increasingly, they are the future of work. So it's really important that we understand this generation and are ready to be able to receive them, attract them, and retain them. Some things to think about of what matters to this generation. So as I mentioned, salary matters. Again, we're having a student employment conversation. I know many of us maybe have fixed wages, and we'll talk about that as we get to those slides. But again, for those of you who maybe have some wiggle room, there's obviously a range that's involved with some of these positions. So thinking about, a lot of our students, this might be their first job, out in college, and this is giving them, they're also supporting their families. And so salary is important, especially for those who are looking to recruit beyond student employment. Flexibility matters to them. So again, some of those roles that you all have, you might not have a lot of flexibility. They are an in-person job, and there might not be the ability for remote or hybrid. But if there is, I know our students like to have options. So, and really it's kind of split 50-50 down the line. There's a lot of research that I have been looking at and reading, and I think just giving them options is what they are asking for. Stability matters. So again, as we've discussed, a lot of them have dealt with a lot of change in their short lifetime. And so any kind of stability within your organizations is something that's going to draw them to you as an organization. Growth matters. They say this is one of the top 3 things that is important to them, where, for some generations, learning is maybe a perk that comes with working. For this generation, this is a given. They're looking for those mentorship opportunities, training and development, career advancement. So any ways that you can be able to show that you care and that you are being intentional with their growth, again, that's going to attract this generation. DE&I matters, as we just mentioned. They care really deeply about inclusion and representation. Those are common conversations they're having in the classroom. So again, we as a institution, this is things we care about. So being able to also show that as leaders within the institution is going to really stand out. And then finally, communication matters. Being timely with responses and being able to give them feedback is really important. So again, just wanting to give you a little bit of a snapshot. You might be nodding your head to some of these, or you might be like, but hopefully these are some things to keep in mind when you're thinking about attracting and retaining this generation. So we're going to shift gears to talk about the recruitment process and what are some tools and resources available to you. So starting with Handshake, and we were just talking with Sarah, our host here, about Handshake. And maybe for some of you, this might be new. You might be, oh, there's another portal on campus for job postings. And yes, there is. This is a central career management portal that I would say is a primary tool of our students that are looking for student employment positions. So if you are, if your department does not have an account, or you yourself, recruitment is part of your role and you do not have an account, I highly encourage you to create an account, and we'll share in a moment how to do that. This is going to give you access to all of our students. Every student has a UCR Handshake account. We have to date, we have about 60% that have logged into Handshake. And we've had at least 25,000 unique Handshake logins over the last year. So it is a very highly utilized tool. But we also can promote events on here. And then for the Career Center, this is also where we link our resources. Another thing that's unique to Handshake is students are creating a profile similar to how they do in LinkedIn, where they can upload a resume, they can upload their experience, they can indicate their interests and passions. And then there's a lot that happens within the system that helps to curate those opportunities in front of students. So again, if students are filling out their profile and if employers are being detailed in their job postings, Handshake is a powerful tool that can really help create those connections. So just a few tips of what you need to know about Handshake. All UCR company accounts are grouped by department. So you can see this example, depending on whatever your department is, this is the ideal way that we try to set up. I think there's been some that happen historically that slipped in that don't have this naming convention, but in general, this is kind of how we strongly recommend for departments to create an account, is to do it under their department. And then every department has one owner, and that owner has the responsibility of approving or declining any new users within that company account. So there's some different scenarios here. I know we've had situations where maybe that owner moves on, they're no longer with your department, or you're unsure who the owner was. Those are things that we can assist you with. And again, when you have access to these slides, there's some articles for how you can be able to easily transfer that ownership. I'm not going to go through all the details here. Again, added more information that you can be able to read on your own. But for those of you who need to create a new Handshake account, we have the link here and what the steps are for creating an account. And just again, to be aware that if you have an existing company account, you're just going to be looking to link to that company account, and you need to connect to our school. So there's kind of 2 steps involved in that process. And again, the owner of your department account would need to approve it. So again, you can reach us at careercenter@ucr.edu if you have any questions on that process. So once you've established your account, which I'm assuming probably a good chunk of you have, you are now cleared to post your position. So just a couple quick things to note on that. Any on-campus positions have a specific classification as a on-campus student employment position or a job type. So that's what we ask you all to select. And then if you plan on hiring from the work study or LEAP program, which I will mention in a moment, there's another checkbox that you have to select, federal work study. That's going to put those jobs in a different queue that we have to approve, and we have to add in some language that is required by the federal government. So make sure to check that off. And then I know another common question, many of you will have positions that you're open to hiring for work study and non-work study students. And the question is, can I use the same posting? And that would be no, you would need to post it twice. So you need to do it one as work study and one as non-work study. Again, don't want to get into the weeds on that, but just want to share those quick common questions that we get, and happy to answer more offline. All right, so questions for crafting a compelling job description. This really is a candidate's first impression to your organization, and there's a lot that you can communicate through a job description. So here are a few things of what to include and what not to include. Again, and I see a lot of job descriptions out there, and there's some really bad ones out there that I can see maybe why students might not be apt to apply. So Things to think about. How will this position benefit the students' learning? I think is really important. Not just what are the responsibilities, but what's the student going to get out of this? Again, what are the qualifications for this position? Where is it located? So again, is it remote, hybrid, in person? Be transparent about those things on the front end. What makes your department special or unique? What are some of those culture things? You know, if it's just a couple lines about your mission or the types of things that you think would make a great fit for your candidates, let them know, give them a glimpse into your department. What skills are required and can be learned on the job. So again, any information that you can provide on the front end is going to, again, allow for a more candidates that are going to more align with what you're looking for. What not to include, generic information, never-ending list of responsibilities, long-winded paragraphs. Nobody likes to read that. And you know our students, they don't like to read a lot of detail either. So be mindful of who you're recruiting. And then any gender biased or non-inclusive language. And I have a really good article here for any of you who maybe are wanting to learn more about how to do that. There's some really great resources here for you. All right, so some Handshake pro tips. So again, Handshake, and I will say, for those of you who are currently posting and maybe have been on Handshake, there's a variety of new updates, product updates that Handshake is making on the job form itself. But some new features you'll see, they're making it easier for employers to be able to search students that meet their ideal qualifications, as well as to receive recommendations based on your job preferences. So they have kind of a matches tab, which is in the job. So they're helping you do some of that sourcing on the back end. So things to take advantage of. Be mindful of the time that students might need for the application process. I'm a fan of the cover letter. I know we could sit here all day and talk about yes, cover letter, no cover letter. And again, some of us have maybe more competitive positions versus others for students to apply to. But just be mindful, if you do require additional documents, be mindful of a student's time to be able to complete that process. You might want to consider expanding your candidate pool by dropping a major requirement. You know, I think that's coaching that conversations we have with employers that, you know, unless you're a really technical positions that need these skills that can only be learned through their degree, might you be open to majors outside of what you might assume would be the best fit. And then again, just mentioning, fill out as many fields as you can in your job posting. Again, Handshake is really smart. So the more information you provide that aligns with those student interests, the more likely that job is actually going to catch be in their feed and be recommended to them. For those of you who maybe you hire a lot of students, you have a lot of high volume roles to fill, couple things to note. Handshake does allow you to post events as well. So you might be hosting your own hiring event. You might want to consider posting that on Handshake as another tool to be able to promote. And then you let us know. We have ways of marketing that too. We're happy to support. And then a great resource that is coming up on September 27th, we are going to be hosting a student employment fair. It'll be here on campus at the Hub. It's free to all campus departments, and it usually is very well attended. And we're going to see both work study and non-work study students in the room. So again, if you are looking to fill quite a few roles, this is going to be a great way to get it in right before the school year starts. So registration deadline is coming up on Wednesday. If you're interested, again, the link is here. It is on Handshake, but you can also reach out to me directly. And then for those of you, maybe you need support with advertising your opportunities. We actually do have support at the Career Center. Sometimes we've partnered with campus departments to send out a targeted email blast. We also send weekly college newsletters where we can get out targeted hot jobs and internships. There's also ways that we can do a little signal boosting and boost your position on Handshake. So again, we want to be able to support you all. We know that recruitment for many of you is in addition to many other responsibilities you have. So we're happy to leverage some of the tools we have to help you. And then just to mention, if some of you budgets are tight and you're trying to determine how can we get the support that we need on limited budget, just wanting you to know that the work study program is available to you to be able to utilize, and there is a cost share depending on the type of position that you are looking to fill. So I'm happy to be a resource to you if that's something of interest. And then we actually have a new program that is under the work study umbrella. It's our Learning Aligned Employment Program. So for any of you who have research-based positions, it'd be over 50% of the role, there is a new program funded by the state that pays 100% of the students' wages up to their allocation. So it's a really exciting opportunity. That could be anything that's scientific to even data related. There's a lot of ways we can kind of, what that requirement looks like, but I'm happy also to chat with any of you that might be interested in utilizing that program. And then this is just, again, a shameless plug for our Student Employment Fair. Would love to have you all there. All right. And I am going to pass it along to Mary to talk about the next section here.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michelle. So we're going to talk about streamlining the interview and selection process. And we will cover some of the best practices that you may want to put in place. So if you plan on using the work study program, there is a form that will need to be completed. So ask for the work study eligibility notification form to confirm the student's eligibility for the work study program. And also, as you prepare to interview students, you want to ensure that they have a quality interview, something that can be tracked, something that is focused in on their particular job that they're applying for. So you want to focus on key skills when planning your interview questions. You want to consider some behavioral questions. One may be learning new skills. So you may ask, describe a time when you had to learn something new, and in what ways did you approach the learning process? You may also consider a section on managing conflict, which you can share an example, ask them to share an example of how they handled a conflict at the workplace. And I know many of you have had to answer that question. And another behavioral question would be some type of learning outcome. What did they do and how did they learn from their mistakes? So you would probably phrase the question as, how did you learn from a mistake you made? And these are all questions that will help you to understand the candidate. And if you consistently ask interview questions and evaluate all candidates using the same criteria, you will definitely find the candidate that you are looking for. So just make sure that you're asking consistent questions. And if you need to, be consistent, but you can go deeper into some of those questions that are asked if you need to. And now I'm going to turn the next slide over to Jessica.
Thank you, Mary. So we're going to talk about, avoid common pitfalls. So one is, be sure you know which topics are legally off limits. So for example, we all know, do not ask questions that could elicit information about the candidate's race, including, color, ethnicity. No questions about religion, marital status, which includes family, relatives, and even pregnancy as well. This also including, age and genetic information. Don't ask questions about birthplace or country of origin or even their citizenship. Includes disability, I'm thinking gender, sex, and sexual orientation. So just know what to avoid ahead of time. So if you have any questions on which interview questions are appropriate, please reach out to your HR representatives, if you have any questions on what were the best questions to ask. Okay, so nothing personal. Next, want to pay attention to some common red flags. So for example, if the candidate is not prepared, maybe criticizes or even disrespects a former employer or colleague or mentor or anything, right? Or if they show up late without notifying you, or another is they keep rescheduling the interview over and over again. That may be a red flag. And also, of course, may have that negative attitude in that interview process. You may go beyond the script when necessary. So consistency is important, but so is tuning into the details about a particular's, candidate work or school experience or even volunteer experience. So when creating questions, make sure they do align to the job you are recruiting for. Ask follow-up questions that drill down into those candidates' experiences as well. Next slide. So how to assess candidates effectively. So we have some criteria here. Number one, standardize your evaluation process. So make sure everyone in your organization or department is aligned on the qualities and requirements you are looking for in that ideal candidate. Two, communication is key. Keep candidates apprised of where you are in the process. Once you decide to offer a candidate a job, make the offer promptly so you don't lose out on top applicants. An example would be if they reach out to you via email or call you with questions, try to respond to them within 24 hours and keep that communication flowing with them. Of course, set clear expectations. So at the beginning of the process, to ensure that your team is in agreement and to help avoid any debate when it comes to selecting that best and qualified candidate. And then last but not least, standardize employee background and reference check. So let students know in advance if you do this as part of your selection process. So if you have any questions about something that does come up, maybe in a background check or a reference check, please reach out to Central HR, Employee Labor Relations for assistance with that. Thank you. And now,
I'm gonna find my mute button. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to transition to the supervisor tools and resources. So this is a piece that I think maybe differentiates us from maybe any other employer, is being at a higher ed institution. I think many of us do care about our students and their development. We want to see them successful beyond this place. And so you as a hiring manager have the opportunity to really invest in their career development. So of course, I'm representing the Career Center, and I wanted to share a few resources for you that can help those of you who would like and are able to build in some career development into your student employment program. Our National Association of Colleges and Employers, referred to as NACE, has developed 8 career competencies that they've surveyed employers to find out what are the skills that they're looking for in recent graduates. So the 8 that have been identified are career and self-development, communication, critical thinking, equity and inclusion, leadership, professionalism, teamwork, and technology. So there's a lot of work that is being done by our National Association to be able to equip institutions and employers to be able to build this into their internships and to a variety of different ways to allow for that growth and professional development to happen for our students, and in essence, for them to be career ready. So some ideas about what that could look like for you as a hiring manager. I wanted to give you some tangible tools and resources if you are interested in being able to use this to help streamline those conversations about their own learning and career development, here's a few ideas. So you could potentially integrate a pre and post self-reflection worksheet. And again, if you click on these links, it'll bring you to a sample resource of how that has looked, getting them to reflect on what are the competencies that they feel strong in, what are some of the areas where they feel like they could grow, and being able to identify those experiences that have helped them grow in the process. You could consider embedding that into your performance evaluations. Maybe you're going to develop a improvement plan that comes with, these are some things that you want them to be able to, trainings or experiences, skills that you want them to work on in order to be able to improve in these different areas. This resource here gives you an idea of what that could look like embedded in a performance evaluation. And then finally, there's a variety of curated resources for teaching and assessing that career readiness. So here you can see there's a breakdown of what is the definition of that competency, what are some of the sample behaviors that you would know that a student does in fact exemplify that behavior. And then here's some resources that you could assign out or link them to that would help them to be able to grow and become more aware of that competency and how they can develop and hopefully lead to a conversation. So again, I'm excited for myself to be able to integrate this more and wanting to also just share those resources with you all. We also have a variety of other resources for students to take advantage of on our website, just careers.ucr.edu/students. There's a variety of resources for students related to, how to be able to prepare not only for their careers, but also some other professional development topics. In addition, LinkedIn Learning is free for our students. And so this link here does give them instructions for how to access. So again, that's a great tool for our students in their learning, as well as Grow with Google. This is a program where we are able to also get a variety of different modules that have different talks. You can see some sample presentations. And by students completing these modules, they also are able to get, we have incentives around that as well through the Career Center. And then we have resources for managers. So we have a new webpage, which is a resource hub for managers of student employees. And that is where our student employment guidelines are housed. And you're going to hear more about what those are in a moment. And then finally, for those of you interested in recruiting students from diverse backgrounds and maybe have questions about what are some of those best practices, all of the UCs, we had put together this UC DEI recruitment best practices guide, and happy to share that as well here. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Jessica to talk about student employment policies.
Oh, sorry, go next. Thank you. So this is a chart of our student employee classification. So we have our, the working title, job description, and the job code. So with student employees that are in other student classifications, such as, teaching assistant, TAs, a reader, tutor, or associate in, they may have terms and conditions outlined in their BX contract. So if you are unsure if your student belongs to a unionized position, please contact your organizational unit HR representative, or you can reach out to Central HR, Employee and Labor Relations Department, or even the Academic Personnel Office for that confirmation. I will turn it over to Mary for the next slide.
Thank you. Everyone, I just want to give you a little background on our student guidelines. And just basically for student employment, it's intended to provide financial support and practical experience in pursuit of the student's educational goal. Work is secondary to the student's academic and student life, And so there are limitations within hours that the employee can work or student employee can work throughout the school year. It's generally 19.5 hours during the school year. And then in the summertime or other breaks, they're allowed to work additional hours. The hiring department is mainly responsible for verifying the students are registered for the requisite credits and hours that are required. And so the minimum hours or units is 6. And the employees, you want to verify the employee's classification. There are various levels that a student can be hired under. As you saw in the previous slide, there's a level 1, 2, 3, and 4 for students, and is used to distinguish the progression in responsibilities, the skill level, and the independence needed to perform the work. A level 1 position is typically an unskilled individual who's new to the workplace, and it's tended to focus really on the training aspects of getting a student aware of what's required in the workforce. And they may include such activities as studying and reading as well. So student classifications are reserved for UC registered students, except for student 1 and 2 non-UCs. So we do have individuals who come from other schools who work for us as well. And they're in that non-UC classification. And they have options that UC students are not available for work when when UC students are not available for work, there are these non-UC registered students at other universities, colleges, or high schools who may be available for work. But our real focus is hiring UC students as a priority. So the student employee must work under close supervision. Any student that's brought into a position there to work under close supervision. They cannot do the work of unionized employees or standard employee assignments. Student must not exercise the same level of independence or discretion as other employees. They can't perform certain duties or tasks that other employees would perform. And they cannot fully participate in department operational responsibilities. They can't have the same level of overall individual responsibility given the sporadic nature of their work schedules and the staff or student assignments that they have as far as work is concerned. So we just truly want to make for sure that we have student employment and as a category, and then staff employees as a different category. We're not hiring to fill roles that normal staff employees would complete. Okay, and then our compensation goes over the equal pay requirement. So as you know, we have obligations to federal and state laws. In this case, we want to ensure that UC continues to advance in equal pay rights. And so our California law, which is through the Assembly Bill of 168 and Senate Bill 1162, we want to ensure that those requirements are followed as far as providing equal pay. And so it bars the university from requesting the pay history of job applicants and restricts the university's use of salary history information, which includes compensation and benefits. If current salary information is voluntarily shared, we still should not be relying on that information to make hiring decisions or to set salaries for those students. The budgeted pay scale and or full salary range must be stated on all student job postings. I know that hasn't been the case in previous years, but in alignment with AB 168 and SB 1162, we want to ensure that all student job postings are posted, our salaries are posted, and current student employees may ask for and be given the salary ranges for classifications of the positions they hold. So as we move forward with those fairs, if you're creating flyers, make sure that you are able to provide some of those salary ranges for those students. And then we have the compensation ranges and salary settings that are available. This information is also posted in our guidelines. But just want to remind you that the California minimum wage right now is $15.50 per hour. And for students, we go by the California minimum wage as well as these minimum and mid and maximum ranges. And that is a little bit different from staff employees as it goes toward the UC minimum wage. There's considerable flexibility in assigning the starting pay for students employed in student jobs. So you can see that we could start with student one in the minimum category of $15.50, and we can go all the way down to the student RS or the residence hall, all the way to $34 an hour. And so what I wouldn't give to be a student making $34 an hour. But they have these opportunities. So several factors should be considered to determining starting pay within the salary range. And here are a few examples here on the slide, which is considering how you want to assess the appropriate salary for those students. You want to keep in mind that the current pay is not a factor in determining pay, and paying over the maximum is not allowed. So definitely keep them at $15.50 or make them the max at the max salary, but you can't go over the max salary. And this is also mentioned in our compensation policy. And our almost final slide, we're going to talk about performance-based merit increases, because there are times when we have students for a longer period of time than just one quarter. And so we just want to make for sure that individuals who want to reward students based on their performance, there are several things that you must consider. You want to have a documented performance review. It should be completed after a student completes at least 2 quarters in the department. And then if a merit increase is offered, it should be offered if satisfactory or better performance has been documented in a performance review. Generally, merit increases are performed based around 3% to 5% once per fiscal year. But you would want to work with your HR representative for further information on equitable merit increase amounts and the organization's best practice. And then finally, we want to talk about reclassifications with associated wage increases, because there are times when we want to provide additional opportunities or funds for students who are performing well. So the student employees should have a documented job description and a performance review as you move forward with thinking through the reclassification process. If their job changes to include more complex responsibilities, a revised job description should be created, and an updated performance review or a current performance review should be on file to document the increased responsibilities. The department will also need to work with their HR representative to discuss reclassification and associated wage increases. And you would also, that HR representative will also work with our class and compensation team to ensure that we're aligned with what the campus is doing or offering. So thank you. I'll turn it back over to Michelle.
All right. And I did want to, before we kind of move on, we're going to transition here in a moment to some Q&A. I did want to mention Handshake actually does require that employers include a pay rate, especially if they are in California. So that is something that is a requirement now. And so you can either do a pay rate or a range within your posting. And then the other thing I just wanted to follow up, that I had a question in the chat. For those of you interested in work study, but maybe you are rehiring a position, there was a question about how to do that, and wanting to just mention that posting on Handshake is still a requirement, even if you already know who you want to hire and you don't need to do an open recruitment. So the difference is you would post it as a work study reserved position. So again, if you need instructions on how to do that, I'm happy to put in our website that can provide more details about that. So happy to answer any work study related questions. Here is our email. So if there was anything that was mentioned during our presentation today that you had follow-up questions on, for the Career Center, again, we are here to support anything related to recruitment, Handshake, work study questions. for Central Human Resources, student employment policies, performance reviews, compensation. Here are some emails that you could reach out to us to ask your questions. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and have us, also to mention, here are some references and resources. If anything you heard today related to any of the Gen Z or recruitment resources is of interest, I wanted to also share out some of those articles here for you. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording.